The thing with UX and UI is that you're constantly sort of dealing with technology, you're constantly dealing with humans, and more than any other design field, you're always dealing with business requirements. Because at the end of the day, it's not an exploration. Someone has hired you for a particular goal, right? So I think it's very important for a UX and UI designer to be someone who's very collaborative. The way I see it is that the human needs will sort of stay the same, but their requirement will change. And the difference there is that earlier we had a problem of getting clean water. Now we want to ensure it is mineralized water, but the thirst is still the same. It's just that what we desire from it will change. I think another thing that I see definitely in the next few years coming from the industry, and this is a little bit of a tip, is that in India, we will be designing for accessibility. The government will be asking the banks, the IRCTC websites to be a lot more accessible and inclusive for people with disabilities and things like that. And in order for a designer to stay relevant, observation is very important, and more importantly, non-judgmental observation, because a lot of times we have these assumptions that blind people can't see, but the reality is that there's variations of blindness, and you need to know that. So I think for anyone to sort of summarize this, it's very important to constantly observe and learn about things that you don't know, and not do it with assumption that might be false. Lateral thinking is a very important skill. The thing with UX and UI is that you're constantly sort of dealing with technology, you're constantly dealing with humans, and more than any other design field, you're always dealing with business requirements. Because at the end of the day, it's not an exploration. Someone has hired you for a particular goal, right? So I think it's very important for a UX and UI designer to be someone who's very collaborative and someone who's able to sort of make space to have conversation and not be like, no, let me fix it for you. One of the problems that I really feel with designers is that they start explaining or mansplaining everything. It's just not required. We need to give them the benefit of the doubt that this is their opinion and this is their perspective. So one of the key skills is definitely having the ability to gain empathy. And how do you sort of hone it or harness it throughout the years? It is just purely by having conversations and listening to stories. And another very vital and valuable thing, and I would say this to anyone, is that learn about design psychology. There are principles of design which are tethered because of human psyche, and it's very important to know this. I constantly make apps which are colorful and cute for people who are scared of digital products. So all the apps for the elderly are always bubbly and cute. It'll remind them of their grandchildren and hopefully reduce the fear of digital. So definitely, and keep iterating and failing. The advice that I would give them is benchmarking. Because there are so many different websites today about what people are doing, it's very scary to be like, I'm not good enough, I can't do what they can. But the reality of this is that presentation of that portfolio is also designed. That means it's probably not so great, but it has been honed and perfected and presented in a certain way. Which means that you can take anything, any idea, and ensure it is created to match your user's need, which in this case is a potential employer. If I were to look at what a potential employer is looking for through their websites, their ethos, their employee value proposition, their principles, and then harness my portfolio to match their requirements. I have 117 different portfolios, and each of those portfolios for the different companies I applied for. And they all have the same thing, but they're all slightly, the messaging is different. So that is something that I would definitely recommend. Also, engagement and interactivity, very, very important. No one is interested in reading, reams of paper anymore. So I think it's very important that you keep it engaging, you keep it crisp. Something that very few designers do in their portfolio is show their failures. And I think it's very important that you show failures when you are showing your portfolio, that to let them know that the first draft was not up to it, right? And I have to make a new one. And that shows that you're iterative, and it also shows that you are someone who's cyclical in their iteration. So show failures, that's important. Also show things that, I wouldn't call it failures, but experimentations, things that maybe didn't become part of the final thing, but it was important to show. Not spend too much time. The final thing is process. We are not interested in good-looking Figma files or good-looking final renders, because AI can do that today. What AI can't show you is the process of thought. So definitely show that, and definitely put in little information. Break it down into chunks. Questions that you asked yourself when you were designing it. So definitely something to think about. Think about money. Definitely. Yeah, I think if I can say it, that was one. The second, the most important thing is seeking out for help. I didn't know that you can seek out help because there's always a constant worry of, I'm an imposter. They will find out that I don't know anything. But the reality is that if you approach things with a childlike attitude and curiosity, you will find mentors everywhere. And you need a mentor for every single project that you do, because every single project is different from what you did earlier. So it is very important to consider your stakeholders and your users as important mentors in your design process. From a process standpoint, rushing research. Rushing research is something that, because companies they expect you to know everything. So they're like, you're already a designer, you should know this. The reality is, no, that's not true. You may not know. So don't rush research. The second thing, it's not a process, but it is taking in criticism and feedback. That is very, very important. I think we're afraid that people will not like our products the way we like it, and we forget that we're not going to use it at the end of the day. So always have someone stress test it and rip it apart. I specifically go to what I call death days, where it's the death of my idea, and whatever is left is what is needed. So I think definitely try to test it out and destroy your product as much as you can through someone else. So peer reviews, soundboarding, all of this is fantastic, because you get rid of the important failures very easily and cheaply. And then after that, you're able to build something. And if someone says, why is it not there? You have an answer of, I checked, I tested, and this is what users said. Let's talk about studios first. Studios come with an ethos. They will look at some things and they'll have their own methods of working, which is true to them. A studio is like your gharana. It's something that we have focused on before, where master apprentice works, and you're generally there for years, and you have to be prepared to be there for years, because when you get out, you immediately become a leader. It's a trampoline, I would say, but a very focused rocket ship like trampoline. And if you're able to survive a studio culture, then you've gotten it, because it teaches you 80% of the things that the college will not teach you. So a studio is a great place where, if you're ready to take on challenges, if you're someone who's ready to take up multiple challenges at the same time, fantastic place. And you work in different teams. The whole idea of agile, right, comes from a place like a studio. So definitely that is something a young designer should think about, that everything that they do is okay. Anything that is asked of you is not beneath you. You will have to do it. Corporate is a different ball game. Corporate means the word business is the forefront. And one of the things that one has to understand in a corporate space is how they present themselves. Hierarchy exists in corporate. It doesn't exist in studios or startups. There is no lead, there is no junior. But in corporate, there are steps that you have to take. And there you have to understand that there will be a lot more failures within the internal team with your design, with your presentations, before it even reaches someone who will review it. Be prepared for 31 different ways of making the same point across. That is what a corporate will take. But one of the things that a corporate has that a studio may not. In a studio, it is that master who deals with the client up front. In a corporate, it is going to be you. there are chances that you will be pulled into a meeting where the recipient of that meeting is the CEO. And that CEO is a CEO of a multinational bank. How are you going to do it? So you need to be able to talk. You need to be able to have gravitas. That is what a corporate does. Startup, very simple. You are your mother. The things that a homemaker and a mother has to do in a household, that is still on top, obviously. But this is how you have to be. You have to be the tutor. You have to be the educator. You have to be the cleaner. You have to be everything. So from being able to go and pick up coffee for your team to being able to sort of understand and make Excel sheets or make leaves or write letters, you have to do everything. If you're in a startup, you're essentially co-owning that company. That's why startups give you ESOPs. And there you have to be okay, you have to be ready to embrace. And I think the most hungriest of designers take the riskiest of decisions of being in a startup, because they see that they can do something with them. Because most startups change the normal, right? They question and they try to disrupt. So you need to have the courage to be able to sort of be there. So definitely hunger and courage, because you have to be a lion in a small cat-like lion in a very large jungle when it comes to a startup. And you can easily become the king of the jungle also. And finally, you didn't mention this, but I am going to talk about it, is product companies. Product companies are different. Product companies, it's the ethos, is the business goals. It is also the entrepreneurial manner, because you're now dealing with startups and competing with startups. But the good thing about product companies is that you have access to history that no one else has. So imagine being a product company of Apple. Imagine being the product company of, say, Godrej. You can see how Godrej changed independence and independent India all the way to today, where a Godrej Almirah is being used in a war-torn country, for example. And you also understand somewhere through that process is that the Godrej Almirah was given from one mother to her daughter. And maybe that is something you want to incorporate in your design. So these are all different things. The one common feature amongst all of them, and I would like to say this because it's an opportunity: have an open-minded attitude, do not judge, and don't think you know it all.